Welcome, everyone, to Partner Up with Amy Carroll, my monthly podcast series. As a communication coach, trainer, speaker, and author, I'm delighted to bring you insights and ideas to help you solve your communication conundrums. This is the second official episode of my monthly podcast series, Partner Up with Amy Carroll. If you want to find out more about me or my guests for my weekly radio show, feel free to listen to them on my website, carrollcoaching.com, or go directly to the voiceamerica.com business channel and download the app. Or you can always tune in using your favorite podcast app. If you missed last month's podcast, I interviewed Bella Evers. Bella is a sustainability digital transformation consultant, startup innovation coach, speaker, and motivational mentor, and an Atlantic Ocean rower. Bella rowed 3,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean with 3 colleagues, 3 of her teammates, all in a pink boat, which I think that's my favorite part. And during this interview, we discovered and talked about her adventures, her courage, and the training it took to complete this amazing feat. So be sure to check out that episode. Now today, my guest is thought leader Reshma Ramachandran. Welcome, Reshma.
Thanks, Amy. So happy to be here with you.
I'm happy too, for several reasons. And I want the listeners to know why I'm so excited and eager to speak with you today. So listeners, let me give you a little background on Reshma. Currently, she's the group senior vice president and chief transformation officer with the Edico Group. Now, Edico is the #1 employment and staffing industry company. And Reshma is based in their headquarters in Zurich. She is an innovative leader with 20 years experience working in multinational, or rather multicultural teams and geographies around the globe: US, Europe, Middle East, India, and Southeast Asia. And you can imagine she brings a wealth of experience in digital and business transformation. Now she's an engineer by education, and she has managed to navigate the corporate lattice by consistently reinventing herself and breaking stereotypes. And listeners, to give you an idea of some of the awards and recognitions that Reshma has received, listen up. Top 100 global thought leaders and influencers to follow in 2020 and 2021. Digital Transformation Leader of the Year finalist in 2021 by the AWS, that's the Amazon Web Services. Named as one of the top 50 women in tech, thought leaders and influencers to follow in 2021. Featured in 100 Ethnic Minority Executives 2021 by Yahoo Finance. Real People Engagement Award winner in 2020. That was based in Switzerland. Featured in Forbes DACH. Did I say it right? DACH. I'm trying not to say the CH part. DACH. For leadership and innovation. Finalist Agent of Change, Global Women in Telco and Tech 2020. Featured in Her Heroes 100 Female Executives 2020 for leading by example. And Mentor of the Year 2020, Gold Award by World Awards. And as I said, listeners, this is only some of the recognition from Reshma. So you can see why I'm so delighted that she has accepted to be my guest today. Whew. Reshma, it's impressive.
Amy, it's a privilege to be on your show.
Super. So I have a bunch of questions that I want to jump into. You ready?
I am so ready.
Okay, good. So now almost every Fortune 500 company is going through a transformation in one way or another. So let's start first by giving us a definition or maybe examples of what you call transformation, and then tell us your role as the Chief Transformation Officer.
Yeah, sure. And I'll try and make it very simple. So I'll actually draw an example from our personal lives. So when we think about transformation, let's talk about transformation in lifestyle. So, I hit my 40s a couple of years. I turned 40 a couple of years back. And, that was when you realize that everything that you eat goes into your waistline. So you just grow wider, not taller. So I started with the objective of saying, I would like to lose some weight. And what I realized was that when I was actually very focused on losing weight, I had a target. I wanted to lose at least 10 kilos. obsessing and focusing on that did not really help, because every morning I would stand on the weighing scale and I wouldn't even be losing even 100 grams. And then I met a nutritionist, and she told me to change the whole outlook, and asked me to look at it from a completely different perspective, and think not in terms of losing weight, but in terms of changing the lifestyle, healthier life. So the moment I changed that, and in about a year's time, I lost the 10 kilos as well. But this is how I define transformation. So transformation is not so much about, the losing weight. It's about how you lose weight, because it needs to be sustainable. And it needs to be sustainable in the sense that the moment you actually stop tracking and measuring something that probably is an outcome or a consequence, you are still able to maintain the fundamentals of it. So lifestyle change, you portion control, you actually have some physical activities. And this is like, I walk to the train station, I never take a bus. So it's about a kilometer, but I walk to the train station. So these are things, fundamental changes that you make in your life. So I just give this example because it's easy to relate. Now let's take an organization. So it's not an individual, it's large organizations that we're talking about. It's something very similar. So the idea may be to grow your top line, or improve your profitability, or change your revenue mix, or change your market mix. But it's not so much about that consequence, it's about how you get there. So this is also where a couple of things in transformations, it's really moving from point A to point B. And the how of it, so it could be a technology, use of technology, and we all live in a technology world. You look at this, we are not in the physical room, we are doing everything virtual. It also comes with a lot of the culture part. This is where people are really at the heart of any transformation. And then I think what has also historically changed from the 80s and 90s to the era that we are living in is future-proofing the business. So if you look at the 80s, take automotive companies, cost reduction was a target. So Toyota came up with this lean process, Ford, General Motors, all of them wanted to actually adopt that. This was one kind of transformation, but it was in that era, you are actually just improving your operations. But look at General Motors now. If you think about their transformation, they're not just improving their operations, they've actually got into electric vehicle mobility, completely different technology of cars. So 3 elements, I would say: the technology enabled one, the people definitely at the center of everything, and future-proofing your business.
And so I really like the essence of the analogy you gave earlier. It's not so much, and tell me if I'm capturing it, not so much focusing on the results, focusing on the how in order to achieve the results.
Exactly. So the why, so in the weight loss example that I gave, the why is you want a healthier lifestyle. The how is how you get there, because it needs to be sustainable. And the what is, of course, your 10 kg weight.
So you've spoken about technology and transformation. And of course, this goes to you being an engineer and technology being your passion. Now, Peter Drucker famously said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Reshma, what do you see as the role of people in culture and transformations? Because you quickly mentioned culture earlier.
So, I think Peter Drucker said this 2 decades back. It holds very true even today. We can have all of the fancy strategies that we want, but at the end of the day, organizations are people, customers are people, suppliers are people. So at the end of the day, if you're not touching the daily behaviors of people, you are actually not executing your strategy. You're actually not able to execute your strategy. This is where the culture element comes. And to me, all the transformations, and this is the 5th largest transformation that I'm part of. So the last 2, this one and the past one, I was leading the transformation. The other 3, I was more part of the transformation. And I can tell you, like, also from experience, if you are not addressing the people part of it, the change part of it, what's in it for me, and how am I going to do it, and addressing the organizational culture at large, you are not changing. This again goes to the lifestyle part. The lifestyle part is the behavior. So I could actually diet for a month and lose the 10 kilos, but it's sustainable? No. In order for it to be sustainable, I need to actually change my daily habits of saying, I'm not taking the bus to the train station. I'm going to walk. And during COVID times, you're not taking the train or the bus, but you say that, 40 minutes every day, no matter what, I'm doing one round of my little village that I live in. So you are actually folding it. This is a whole cultural change that needs to happen in the organizations.
Reshma, I've just started, I like to listen to audiobooks. I don't really have the patience for reading, and it gives me an excuse to walk and listen. And I'm just started this book. I'm wondering if you've heard of it, Atomic Habits. And I'm trying to think of what the author's name is. Let's see if I can find that. Have you read that book?
I've not read that book. As I was telling you, Anne, our common friend, Anne, she referred the book as well to me.
Okay. Oh, that's so funny. Yes. So it's James Clear is the author, and he really gets deep into this idea that it's about, the mindset and that's what you have to change in order for, as you say, for it to be sustainable.
The small, consistent steps to the larger change.
Yeah. He talks about 1% changes. And, over time, that's what matters. That's what counts. Yeah. I'm curious, and you may have some examples later on, though, either in your personal experience or in the zeitgeist as a whole. Are there examples that you can share where culture wasn't taken into consideration and what happened as a result?
So I would take, so some of the famous large transformations that failed, Nokia being one, Kodak being one. So Kodak is a famous example I like to give, where, the Kodak was actually the first company that came up with a digital camera. But since the whole company was fundamentally made of chemical engineers who didn't want to let go of their forte, so to say.
Right.
They kind of killed it in the organization. So the people who came up with the concept of digital camera, they killed it.
I didn't realize that they had come up with the concept. That's crazy.
How sad that can be. So this is where the culture was predominantly, where there is a strong group of people who are these chemical engineers, coming up with these new chemical technologies, making these, the cameras that no longer use more efficient, they dominated. So this is a failed transformation. Another great transformation, which is a classic example and which is like lauded in so many of these business magazines as well, where culture was taken into account, is Microsoft. So Microsoft today, the market cap of Microsoft is 3 trillion. 3 trillion. Exactly. I mean, you can't even fathom that. So the whole transformation of Microsoft, when Satya took over in 2014 up until now, so about 8 years, has been fundamentally focused on changing the culture of the organization. It was never so much about, we want to become a 3 trillion company. No. It was never about that.
No, I see.
Fundamentally about how we make people collaborate.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really fascinating. My sister, who developed the predator partner model that I use, Microsoft has been one of her main clients for many, many years. I want to make an assumption that she helped contribute to some of that collaborative shift. Maybe I'm not sure 3 trillion worth. Excellent. You talk about and you believe in the power of human magic. What does human magic mean for you? And how do you unleash that power in an organizational transformation? What does that look like?
So, human magic is a word that was coined by Hubert Joly, who led one of the most successful transformations of our century, the Best Buy. He was a CEO when Best Buy was literally going bankrupt, and in 8 years, he has really turned it around.
What was his name?
Hubert Joly.
Okay.
And he's written a book. So since you're an avid reader, I would recommend that. This is called The Heart of Business.
The Heart of Business.
See, to me, human magic is something very simple. All of us have more potential than we believe in. This is why coaches, mentors, sponsors work very well, because someone who believes in us when we don't believe in us. So this is really, we all have more potential than we know. We all have more potential than we believe in. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if we really have to future-proof the business, which means we have to invent the unknown, we have to innovate not knowing what tomorrow looks like. Who knew 2 years we would be in COVID? Right? So we have to innovate. We have to predict the future, literally. So how can you do that? You can only do that by unleashing this human magic, unleashing this potential that is within all of us. This is where, for me, transformations, again, fundamental part of transformations is about understanding that human magic exists. Yes. Understanding that, what motivates people. So what motivates you is very different from what motivates me. Imagine when you were working for large companies, 30,000 employees. My past employer had 140,000 employees. Wow. So it's literally getting to each one of them. But the moment you get to each one of them, you are able to unleash that potential, the hidden potential. Yeah. And then you are no longer this command and control manager who's saying, you do this and you do that. You're not managing any of that. You're setting the context for these 140,000 people or hundreds of thousands of people, and they are actually going and inventing that future for you. This is the only way organizations can grow. Because in my mind, and Amy, you talk to a lot more of leaders than I do. You probably know it better. The whole command and control kind of leadership is gone.
Yeah. They're paying a big price when they do that. Yeah, absolutely. I love how you say it, human magic. And it's true. One of the things that constantly surprises me about the coaching work I do is, and it's also past boyfriends of mine have also benefited from this, is when the relationship is over or when the coaching is complete, one of the things that seems to happen is this increase in confidence. Not 100% of the time, at least with the boyfriends, a lot more often than I expected. And with the clients, and I explain to them, we don't specifically work on confidence, yet the work we do, the how, one of the byproducts is that you will increase your confidence in yourself. And it feels like such a wonderful gift that I'm able to give people through the coaching process. And I saw it with myself. My very first coach, he would have me fill in a form before the session. And I only, it was only a couple of questions. Though, Reshma, I got so into that, I would be writing for 45 minutes. And I don't love writing, okay? So I would just and then I did this, and then that. And it was the same impact on me. My confidence in starting my coaching practice just kept increasing through, and one of it was observing successes. I don't know if you want to share about that, because I know that many professionals and people who are good at their job, they think, well, success is just a given. I'm supposed to do that. We can't dwell on it. We shouldn't spend time talking about what worked. And when I do that with my coachees, when I do it with myself, there's that sense of, that's why it works. So raise it to a level of awareness, and then it's even more available to you in the future.
I agree. And this is, this goes, I would extend it a little further to also call out what we call as a growth mindset. Yes. So it's really about also celebrating the little wins, but keeping a completely open mind to say, no matter what I do, I'm only learning, I'm making no mistakes. And even when you have actually, you have all innovation, so transformation I would say any large transformation, there is a lot of element around innovation. And innovation happens only by making mistakes. And I always tell my teams, it's about failing fast and learning fast. So you can't keep doing the same thing and expect better results. So no, that's a no-go. So you fail fast, you learn fast, and okay, that doesn't work. Let's move on to the next. And then it's also important, no matter the hypothesis didn't work, it's also important to actually celebrate the win, saying, hey, listen, we know one of those doesn't work. Yeah. So this is very much the growth mindset. And I really like that also in parenting. So as telling you, I have a teenager, and this is something that we also do with him, because sometimes, he's not so sure he wants to try something. And we tell him, there is no failing, you learn. So just go and try out as much as you want, because you learn. And then when you learn, you know that, okay, that was not good enough. You can move on to the next.
Yeah. Reshma, my mom had the same philosophy. She's like, failure just means you're going to learn something. And I feel so lucky, and I'm so happy that you have that philosophy and that you bring that into with the people you work with, and as well as your son. It's just such a gift to help people embrace the idea that failure is not this thing to be, ashamed of or to avoid.
Yeah, and I'm glad you spoke about your mom and what it has done for you, because I'm still talking as a mom about my son.
Yeah.
I think this is something that as a parent, yes, we kind of underestimate the influence we have on our children. And I'm really happy that you give kudos to your mom. It's the same thing I feel we underestimate as leaders. So we don't know the little actions, little words, what impact it has on our teams and with the wider organization. So it's very important that as leaders, we continue to maintain that growth mindset and not beat neither ourselves up nor our teams up for, again, quote unquote failures, because it's just learnings.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm going to suggest we take a break in a minute. And when we come back, I'm going to pick this up. Now, listeners, if you want to connect with and find out more about Reshma, you can go directly to LinkedIn. I'm going to spell her first and last name for you. Reshma is spelled Reshma, and then Ramachandran is Ramachandran. Or you can go to her website, Accenture.com. And if you're ready to take your superhero partner powers to the next decade, join me for my online leadership presence course. You'll find more details on my website, carrollcoaching.com. When we come back, we'll hear more from Reshma, so stay tuned. You're listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. Welcome back, listeners. My guest today is thought leader Reshma Ramachandran, and we've been discussing leading business transformations. So we're going to jump back into it. Reshma, well, actually, let's just give a shout out to Ann Taylor, because we were just raving about how wonderful Ann is. And I like that, you said you knew that the chemistry was there and that you have a good connection with each other. So that's wonderful.
I'm very glad I found Ann. So just for the viewers, she's my coach, and I'm extremely happy that I've decided to go with her for the executive coaching.
And she's got a fabulous book, listeners. Reshma, do I have it right? Soft Skills, Hard Results?
That's right.
Yeah. So it is chock full of very applicable, very useful information. But there we have it. Okay. So now, Reshma, I'm curious to know, what are the biggest challenges you faced while leading business transformations?
So the biggest challenge in any leadership is internal. So any transformation is really internal. We are not talking about an external challenge. We always have the market. We always have the opportunities. It's a question of who captures that opportunities. And I always say this, even if I'm the chief transformation officer, the real chief transformation officer is always the CEO, because he or she is really the leader of it's like the captain of the ship. So the captain of you could have a chief engineer who's helping you with things, but the captain of the ship is really one who steers the company. So if you ask me what are the greatest challenges, and I would say, across the 5 transformations that I've had, there are 2 parts to the challenge. One is the leadership itself. So the executive leadership, how much do they believe in the transformation? So if they believe in the transformation, then comes the question of how much are they willing to change? Because fundamentally, any organizational transformation is about individuals changing, which collectively results in a change. And change always happens at the top. So it's about, it's like saying, let's talk about a digital transformation. So we are running a digital transformation. And imagine if the executive leadership says, we will not use Zoom. We will do all meetings physical. This defeats the purpose, because actions are always louder than words.
Right.
So this is the first part of the challenge. The second part of the challenge is a wider organization. No one, independent of whether change is good or bad, change is always associated with negative feelings.
Hold on, let's say that again. Change, right? Oh, really? Always negative feelings. Wow. Okay, that's a hard road to.
Exactly, because what is the definition of change? Change means you are stopping to do something and you need to start doing something else. So that something else could be good for you. And, I don't know, Amy, if you remember, there is a famous picture which shows, some people pulling a cart with square wheels. And there is a guy standing next with the round wheels and saying, listen, this will help you. And they're like, no, this is change, because, they have to change these square wheels.
Right.
So the larger part of the, I would say, the challenges, once you have fixed, let's say, the executive leadership, the larger part of the, or the next leg of the challenge is really the wider organization. And as I was saying before our break, it's really about connecting to each individual in the organization and telling them what this change means for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it really connects. And I take Edeco, my current transformation, as an example. One of the reasons why I joined Edeco was the purpose, making the future work for everyone. So think about it. And we touch the lives of about 3.5 million people a year.
Wow.
So it's really, we can actually change the lives of people. So starting with a refugee who comes to France from, one of the African countries without any degree certificates, or to someone, completely white collar job, could be a CEO of a company who's going through a career transitioning. These are the wide spectrum of people, segments that we actually cover. So this resonates with me so much because I like helping people, and I feel that I have a connect to the transformation. So this is a challenge that I face today, that it needs to connect with the 31,000 employees.
Right.
What does this transformation mean to me? What does this purpose mean to me? So this is also the reason why transformations are longer. So you don't expect to transform a large company in 3 months, 12 months, no?
Yeah.
Typically, transformations take about 3 to 5 years. 5 years is when I'd say it primarily becomes business as usual.
Wow. And did I understand correctly that you start with yourself first to make sure you're fully committed to the driving it? And then what do you do when you've got the resistance? How do you handle, what are some examples of some of the internal resistance, and how do you address it?
So the simple answer to how do you handle resistance is conversations. What is famously called the change conversation. So we can't, it's impossible for us to believe that I would come and tell you, Amy, you change your blue shirt to a pink one, and you say, oh, wonderful, I'm going to wear a pink tomorrow. No, this does not happen. This comes with the conversation as to why the pink would actually suit you better. So maybe you try it on, maybe you want to match it with your glasses, maybe you should get a handbag that goes with it. So there is a lot of enablers to change. So I would say that this is also the reason why change management that goes with large business transformations is hard. Simply takes time. You need to connect with a large number of people, there is no silver bullet to it. It's simply change conversations.
And in those change conversations, because that's where my area of passion is, in those one-on-one to group conversations. What are some advice that you have or learnings you have from those, things to definitely avoid or things to include?
So definitely avoid is actually blaming, because or going in and saying, listen, whatever you're doing is wrong, and we need to stop this and do something else. This is something I think, because we have got here, any organization, because of everything that we have done in the past. So to go and tell those people that whatever you have been doing in the past is wrong is a clear recipe for failure.
Okay.
So this is something to clearly avoid. What needs to be done, again, probably not a silver bullet answer, is more understanding the motivations of people. So a lot of people that I talk to in my organization at the moment, a lot of them actually join the company because of the purpose. We want to make the future work for everyone. We want to make it an equitable world. We want to make it an equal world. We want every segment of the society to have access to employment. We believe in skills. We believe in talent. We don't believe in degrees or labels. So this is something that attracts most of our talents to us. And then how do you connect with them? So here, I would say group conversations more. So I don't do too many individual conversations. It's more group conversations.
I see.
But in group conversations, it's about allowing people to talk about their passions and then helping them connect it to their daily work.
So avoiding blaming, encourage them to talk about their passions, and then making that connection. That's beautiful. Yeah, because that's how you find the motivation. That makes sense. Yeah. Reshma, seeing the awards and things you've gotten, it's clear that you're a champion and advocate of diversity, and that you're doing remarkable things working in work to bring women of color into leadership roles. So I'd like to just first say thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for acknowledging Amy.
There's people out there doing that. And so one question I have for you is more of a general question about women. Do you think that women are somehow better suited to be leaders in crisis and change? And if so, what is it that our male counterparts can take from us, or what can we take from male counterparts?
So I may be very biased when I say it, but leaving aside my biases, research proves that women are better crisis leaders. Take the leader of New Zealand. When COVID hit, she hit all the news channels simply because she was one of those people who handled the crisis pretty well. And then there was a lot of news articles that came, Angela Merkel, for example. So all women leaders handled the COVID crisis much better than the male counterparts. And the research as well, but my experience again goes in the direction of our feminine skills. We are vulnerable. We are caring, we have humility. So we are not in crisis. What you don't want is to go and brag and be arrogant and not understand that people are also going through a lot of emotions. People also have all those doubts. So you don't want to actually bash them more. So
I want to slow you down because you're saying so many rich things. So vulnerability, humbleness, and there was another one that you said, not bragging.
Caring. So vulnerability, humility, and caring. These are all feminine skills.
Caring. Yep.
Yeah. So caring. So when you care, you are actually able to relate to people. People are able to relate to you. Vulnerability is when you are actually going and saying, you have fears too, and you just need to navigate the fears.
Yeah.
So I do believe that business transformations, which is not always in a crisis mode, but typically, not done well, gets into a crisis mode. And there are very, very few organizations, Schneider Electric is one of those, which got into a transformation when everything was going good. There are very few organizations who actually get into or go into the strategic business transformation when everything is doing well. Because, saying that, success is a prison. When you're successful, you don't want to change. You don't want to touch anything. So very few organizations get into transformations when they are successful. 99% of the organizations, Microsoft included, got into a transformation when they were doing not so well. Yeah. This is where feminine leadership traits are much better suited to make that change happen. And once the change happens, and probably for growth, and again, not excluding women, it's not that we don't have ambitions. Our expression of ambition is different. Yeah. So when it comes to growth, it's a different skill set and leadership traits that you need. But in crisis and change, Amy, research again, COVID proved that. Proved it to the entire world that women leaders are much suited for that.
Yeah. I know working with my clients, one of the things that I've started focusing on with them over the last maybe 7 years is allowing more vulnerability. And for some of them, it's just a horrifying idea because it feels really scary. They feel exposed. And I, explain, okay, it's really gonna serve you really well. I promise. Let's just hold on to this as a possibility. And last year I had the pleasure to work with this amazing senior leader in Japan. It was a woman, and she caught on to the power of vulnerability, and she just has made it part of her leadership qualities consciously to allow for vulnerability. And of course, Brene Brown is the queen of helping us to understand the power of vulnerability. So I think that's a good shout out for people. If you're curious, men and women, if you want to expand your vulnerability, check out Brene Brown's work. You can start with her TED Talks. She's got books on tape that are just fabulous and inspiring. And the other thing is humility and caring. Yeah. And it's not that men don't have these qualities. It's just that maybe in those moments of pressure, stress, crisis, change, that they may kind of default to a safer setting. And that's why what your point is, that in these, particularly in crisis and change, that a woman's has a willingness to go into those three spaces.
Yeah, that is one part. And I would say, in any, as in with anything else, we have we can categorize into masculine versus feminine. So masculine traits versus feminine traits.
Yeah.
And again, this is just the statistical part of it. Women have those feminine traits. This is why it's called feminine. And men have certain masculine traits. That's why it's called masculine, right? So I'm not necessarily saying that men cannot do the job well when it is crisis, but they need to exhibit feminine traits, which is vulnerability, which is humility, which is caring. This is not a masculine trait.
Right. Okay, here's another one for listeners. Tell me what you think about this, Reshma. If you want to develop your humility, I have two approaches for you. One, let's say your listeners, you're having a conflict or a disagreement with someone. One thing would be to say something like, so let's say, Reshma, you and I are having a disagreement and you say something to me, and what I can say back is after I check, Reshma, did I understand correctly? You're suggesting this and this. And then I could say, and Reshma, what I appreciate about what you said is, and then I would identify something that authentically, I appreciate because you're letting me know how you feel or how important this is for you, or you've given me information I didn't know. So the first step in, the humility would be just to simply thank the other person first. They've given you a gift, let them know what it is. And then step two, when you're in disagreement, I don't know if I've actually done this yet. I've been playing with it for a couple of months, to actively prove myself wrong. So you and I are having a disagreement, and I'd say, Reshma, I think and this is only if listeners, if you believe it's true, that you've got to be willing to see it from the other person's perspective. Though I would say, Reshma, when you tell me this, I realize that it makes a lot of sense. And that maybe my approach, there could be some problems with it. And the irony is that the impact it has on you, Reshma, I'm guessing, is a willingness to explore my idea nonetheless. Is that true? Is that the impact that?
I fully agree. And I'm happy that you're summarizing it much better than I could have articulated. And for your viewers, I also have a book that I can suggest, which is a Nonviolent Communication by Marshall.
Preach it. Oh yeah, give it up. Absolutely. NVC.
Yes. And both of what you said is exactly also the fundamentals of the nonviolent communication. So it's really about relating with the other person and not taking a stand. And probably, some of these fantastic negotiation books also would say, because it's not really taking a stand. And I really like how you articulated, Amy. And I'm not so good at taking that step back when it comes to difference of opinion. Yeah. And I'm actively practicing it now. So it's a good perspective refresher for me.
Okay. Yeah, and you've got a 14-year-old home, so you could practice it probably every day. And I cut you off when you were saying it. So for listeners, the book Reshma recommended is Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Goldberg. Rosenberg. Thank you. And that's, it's funny, the work I do, that to me is like the pair to it. I talk a lot about the how, and for me, nonviolent communication is about the what. So powerful. I also have started using it, Reshma. I call it giving myself emergency self-empathy. I do something and I'm like a total jerk, or I'm really upset, or someone's mean to me. And I just say, Amy, how are you feeling? Well, I feel embarrassed and disappointed. Like this week is help me. Give me a second. I'm going to find it. random acts of kindness week, apparently. Okay, so I said, okay, I'm going to do a random act of kindness. And I bought a bouquet of flowers to give to someone. And the first person I saw was an elderly gentleman, and he was putting the key in for his mailbox. And I said, sir, I have these flowers and I'd like to offer them to you. The guy wouldn't even look at me. He's just like, nope, not interested. And so I walked away with my flowers feeling a bit sad. And it really took the wind out of my sails. And then I was like, okay, Amy, how are you feeling? I was embarrassed. I was disappointed. I was a little bit frustrated. And I think there was a little bit of shame somehow because he wouldn't even look at me. Like somehow he thought I was trying to scam him into giving him tulips. I don't know. And so that helped me to shake it off, and then also, I was like, well, and what are you needing, Amy? Well, I need acknowledgement. And I want to have a connection with someone. So then sure enough, a woman walked by a few minutes later. She had her little son with her. And I said, Amy, try again, right? You failed once, keep going. Your mom would be proud of you. And I handed the woman, I said, I'm offering flowers to people today. Would you like some? And she said, oh, yes, thank you. Big smile. Her kid's going, what is going on here? And so there's a couple things in that random acts of kindness. It's also for me to get out of my comfort zone, to do something that feels scary or vulnerable, because I might get rejected, which I did, and I survived it. So I don't know why I went off on that tangent.
Yeah, and you exhibited growth mindset. So you didn't
Thank you.
learning, and you actually went to the next person. So kudos, Amy.
Thank you for that. So is there anything else before we jump into, I have one last question for you though, around your work around diversity and supporting women of color. Is there anything in addition that you want to add to that or highlight?
No, just for all the viewers. So I also have a LinkedIn group for women of color. And I believe, and this probably comes with my 20 years of transformation experience, I believe in change conversations. I believe in conversations. Let's just put it that way. I believe in conversations. So one of the things that I felt, women in general, but also women in specific, we don't normalize things. So when you said, you experience shame, this is a normal feeling. We don't normalize. We actually beat ourselves up way too much. And why I say believe in the power of conversation is because every time I have felt low, every time I felt like, I have beaten myself up, or the external world has beaten me up, I've always had mentors, coaches, friends, just my girl power that I go and actually talk and I feel, oh, this is normal. Yeah. So for all your viewers, Amy, the LinkedIn group is an open group, so feel free to go in there. It's more for women of color. I just want to make sure that, in a world that we live in where there's so much of bias and discrimination, and you just don't know whether you are at a point where you should give up or you should push yourself. And this is when you need a helping hand. Yeah. So that's this group. So come there, talk about it, have those conversations. Most of us have gone through it already. Happy to share our own experiences just to normalize.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Will they find that easily on your LinkedIn page?
They will find that very easily on my LinkedIn page. Okay,
great. Oh, Reshma, thank you for that. Well done. And so I guess my last question for you is, what is your life motto? And how do you live it in this incredibly unpredictable world? And especially when we look at what the pandemic has thrown us into.
Very, very good question. Interesting question, personal question. So I can put a lot of adjectives there. So, at the start, probably I should have given a short introduction of myself. So I'm Indian. I grew up in India and in the rural part of India. And it comes, so I'll answer the question, my life's motto. So I just need to give a short preview into my growing up years. So, I grew up in the rural part where we didn't have reliable electricity. So I really went to the best schools, but mostly studying under a kerosene lamp or candlelight. So, and we didn't have clean drinking water. We always had to carry buckets. Even for a shower, there was a
Right.
fixture of shower, but no water comes out of it. You always had water in a bucket. Same thing with public transportation, unreliable public transportation. So it's not the Swiss public transportation that runs on time, fantastic, world class. So why I say that is, there was a story that was written for me. This is how you would end. You're born here, and this is how your life would actually work. So 40,000 people in this little village, this is how their stories are.
Mm-hmm.
So my life's motto is, life is really what you make of it.
Yeah.
You are in charge of your life. So you can actually be the story that was written for you, and my life is a classic testimony to that. I didn't want that story for myself. I've written a story for myself. And again, when people say, I had these choices in life, I decided to choose this. No, I didn't have too many choices in my life. Opportunities were what I either created for myself or what was given to me. But how best you make use of that opportunity is what defines you.
Wow, that's beautiful. And thank you for the backstory. That helps to appreciate it even more. So Reshma, we're just about to wrap up. And I would love to hear a call for action that you have for the listeners and the viewers.
So my call for action would be very similar to my life's motto, which is life is what you make of it. So call for action is this, we all like our comfort zones.
Yeah.
And our comfort zones are not where growth happens. Growth happens. So just outside of the comfort zone is the fear zone. This is the zone that is most difficult to navigate. Outside of the fear zone is the learn zone, and the last is the growth. So call for action for all your viewers, for us, for you and I. And I was very happy when you narrated the tulip story, you were talking about the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Need to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Fear zone is there. Do not get stuck in your fear zone. This is also where all your self-limiting beliefs come. And Amy, you rightly said, your shame, your vulnerability, what do people think of me, your fear of failure, everything is in the fear zone. And that's also your self-limiting beliefs. Do not get stuck in the fear zone. Do not succumb to your self-limiting beliefs. Get out of that. Go learn, go grow.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you for that, Reshma. And what I'll add for the listeners is, I'm all about communication effectiveness and to really help you remove all the challenges you have. So I'm going to invite you to send me any communication conundrums, clashes, challenges, mishaps, or blunders you have. And they can be old ones, they can be fresh ones. And also, if you have successes, we can learn from those too. Reshma and I were talking about that. And you can do this via email or just through social media. I'll read them, I'll discuss them on future shows and make suggestions. My email address is amy@carrollcoaching.com. And that's Carroll with 2 R's and 2 L's. And Reshma, thank you. This has been an absolute treat. For the listeners, if you want to connect with her, you can go either to the website, accenture.com, or LinkedIn. And remember, her name is Reshma, and then Ramachandran. Listeners, if you want to check out my next episode, be sure to switch on, tune in, listen up, and be inspired when I'll be interviewing Terry Reel, who I think actually, Terry, I don't know if Terry's going to be next month or the month after. So it could be a surprise guest next month. So I'm going to leave it at that. And if you want to, for more information, check out my website, carrollcoaching.com. Connect with me on my social media channels, Amy Carroll Coaching. Reshma, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Amy.
And thank you, listeners. You've been listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the podcast with Voice America. Happy partnering, everyone.